All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Org Charts 201 Beyond Org Charts, where we're going to be diving a little bit deeper into all of the cool things that Org Charts can do in Lucidchart. So this is the second part of a two-part series. Hopefully you have attended Org Charts 101, where we covered kind of the basics, how you can get started building an org chart, how you can make different adjustments to it, and things like that. So if you're joining us today, hopefully you've got the foundational side of org charts down so we can go a little bit deeper. All right, before we get started, a couple of housekeeping items. First and foremost, my name is Paige Allen. I am a product pro here at Lucidchart. That said, I've been with Lucid for several years now, and in my time, I have learned a thing or two. So I'm excited to share a few of my favorites with you guys today. We will be recording today's session, so if we move through anything too quickly, don't worry, we will record this and send it out to you so that you can go back and rewatch it, share it with coworkers, whatever you'd like to do there. All right, and to kind of set the agenda and what today is going to look like, the primary goal of today is to help you see beyond your org chart. Now, a lot of folks use other software for building out and referencing a hierarchical org chart, right? Things like Bamboo HR, whatever sort of HR software you use is totally great. Now, where Lucidchart is a little bit different is you can take that hierarchical reporting structure org chart and gain some actionable insights beyond just the reporting structure. So we want to see some of the other cool things that you can visualize here in Lucidchart. So we're going to talk about first how you can apply conditional formatting to gain some additional insights from your data set. We are going to talk about how you can quickly and easily bucket employees with increased flexibility with one of our new features called Group View. We're going to talk about how you can visualize data from multiple spreadsheets. So that way you can see all of your different data in one place at one time in a very easy way. And last but not least, we're going to talk about how you can use one-click filters to segment employees to, again, see exactly what you want to see when you want to see it. That said, let's go ahead and get started jumping into Lucidchart. All right. Now, if you were able to attend our last webinar, hopefully you know how to get your org chart into Lucidchart. Just as a quick review, we will actually build your org chart for you. So as long as you've got your org chart data in a spreadsheet, we will do all of the manual lift and build that out all for you, ready to go. So to do that, what you'll want to do is navigate to the toolbox here on the left and select this Import Data button at the bottom. Now, you'll see an option for org charts here. It should be the first option. We'll go ahead and click that, and it will open our org chart wizard that's going to walk us through step-by-step how to import our org chart. Now, you'll see several options here. You can either import from a Google Sheet, an Excel file, a CSV, or from Bamboo HR if you would like as well. So lots of different options here for you. Now, to give you kind of an idea of what your spreadsheet might look like, this is an example spreadsheet. You can see here a couple of fields that I'd like to point out. You'll see things like folks' names, their role, perhaps their contact information, a photo of them, and really whatever information you have is totally great. Now, something to point out here is you'll notice an employee ID and a supervisor ID. That is how Lucidchart is going to recognize how to lay out your org chart structure for you. And so you'll notice that everybody has a unique employee ID here on this list. In this case, we have 35 people, so there are 35 numbers, but that's just a 1 through however many lists of the people you have. The other thing to point out is your supervisor ID. Now, this will correlate with your employee ID, and so since everybody, supervisors included, have an employee ID, you can use that employee ID as a supervisor ID. For example, Brent is reporting to Norma, so you'll see Norma's employee ID is 1, and since Brent is reporting to Norma, his supervisor ID will also be 1. So that's kind of a quick little tips for how you can set up your org chart spreadsheet to build that out in Lucidchart. Now, jumping back into Lucidchart, after we walk through this wizard, you will be able to see your org chart. It's going to look great, just like this. Lucidchart will build it for you. And we want to talk a little bit about how, now that we can see this hierarchical structure, what if we want to see something beyond this? For example, maybe we want to quickly and easily see folks that are working on a certain project team, or maybe we want to look at pay parity or diversity or location. There could be a number of different things that we might want to look at that would be difficult to actually see looking at a reporting structure. However, Lucidchart makes it super easy for us because we can apply rules to highlight different folks based on certain criteria. So what we'll do is we will navigate over to the doc on the right, and we're going to select this conditional formatting button here. It's going to be the very last option. All right, now I'm going to select my org chart because I want the rules that I create to apply to my org chart as a whole. Now to create a new rule, we'll go ahead and click this plus rule button, and it's going to apply to the selected shapes. You'll see it's applied to the selection, meaning I've selected my org chart, so it's going to apply to my org chart. You could also create it as another rule and then apply it in the future. In this case, let's go ahead and click it and apply it to our selection. And best practice is to always name our rules. So maybe in this case, we want to look at what project teams folks are working on. We'll go ahead and call those Scrum teams. So let's say we want to look at Scrum team number 1. Now you'll see several options here under conditional formatting. You can either change your shape's formatting, meaning things like the color of your shape, the border color of your shape style. You can also change icons. So you can add little indicators if you'd like, such as if maybe there is a pay adjustment that has to be made, maybe you have an arrow going up or whatever that might be. I'll go ahead and click on that so you can see all the different icon options. And you can also add a dynamic progress bar, letting you know perhaps how well folks are doing on things like if you're looking at a sales org chart and you want to see people's performance for the quarter, this might be a great way to visualize that in Lucidchart. Let's go ahead and we're going to create a shape format, and we want to look at our shape data. You'll notice you can either set your rules based off of the text that's in the shape, off of a formula, or off of the shape data. And we want to look at the shape data because you'll notice that if we're looking at project teams, there's no project team information on this shape. But we know it's connected to that because we built this from a spreadsheet. So we'll go ahead and click shape data here. And if we click this drop down, we're able to see all of the different fields in our spreadsheet. And it looks like we have an option for Scrum team here. So we want to make sure that our Scrum team column contains Scrum team 1. We'll go ahead and retitle this. It looks like I didn't save it. So Scrum team 1, click enter. And maybe we want those folks to turn a nice light green. And if we go ahead and zoom out, you'll see that all of those folks look like they're light green now, and we can quickly and easily gain those insights and see more than just the reporting structure from this org chart. Okay, so that said, if we come back to our org chart data set, it looks like we have about 3 Scrum teams. So we need to go ahead and create more rules. Now, if we had to do this every single time, it might be kind of time consuming and frustrating. What we can do instead is if we come over to this rule we just created, we can select the ellipses here on the right, and we can duplicate this rule. So we'll go ahead and duplicate it, and we are going to come to the top again, best practice to name this. So we want to call this our Scrum Team 2, and you'll notice that all of the rules we created before are applied. So all we have to do is change the number here, and we can go ahead and change that fill color, maybe a light yellow, and we're all set with that rule. Now I've already created other rules, so we can go ahead and just drag those other rules up here and apply them. So you'll see that now we've got a really great colorful org chart where we can see beyond just the reporting structure. Again, being able to actually gain these actionable insights will allow us to make changes and decisions based off this org chart. So here I can see all the folks that are working on different project teams. Now this is great if we want to kind of get a full structure view, but let's say we want to make sure that all the project teams have a senior titled individual on the team to be kind of an executive sponsor, if you will, to be there to help and make sure that the project is running smoothly. Now, it's easy to see all the folks this way, but it's kind of hard to gain those insights here without having to zoom in and look at all of the different shapes, and kind of your eye will have to go all over the spreadsheet or all over the org chart. So how can we do this a little bit easier? We can actually use Lucidchart's new feature called Group View to automatically bucket these folks by certain criteria. So what we'll do is we're going to come up to, we'll double click our org chart to open our edit menu. We're going to come over to the toolbox here on the left and click this layout option, because we want to be adjusting the layout of what our org chart looks like. Now from here, we'll come down to create group view. And this is going to open a wizard very similar to the wizard we were looking at when we initially imported our org chart. Very easy. We'll just walk through step by step as this wizard walks us. So we need to select the field that we want to base our groups off of. So if we go ahead and click this drop down, maybe you want to see folks by role, maybe you want to see them based off location. You have lots of different options here. In this case, we want to see our project teams. So we want to base our groups off of their Scrum team. Now, an advanced option you'll see here is you can actually preserve those conditional formatting rules. So if we want to keep all of the colors that we've just added to our org chart, we can do that very easily by preserving those conditional formatting rules so that they will continue to apply in this new layout view. All right, from here, we'll go ahead and click on this Create Group View button on the bottom right. We'll let Lucidchart do the work for us, and you will notice that we can now really easily see in a succinct way all of the different groups and folks that are assigned to them. So you'll see we've got our Scrum Team 1, 2, 3, and then folks that are not assigned to a team. Now, what's so cool about this is it is very dynamic and easy to make adjustments. So very, very flexible. Perhaps we want to add more folks to teams. We can just drag and drop. Maybe we want to move folks around to different teams. We can make all of those adjustments very easily here in Lucidchart. We can also add a new group if we'd like. So maybe we want to create a new one that is our Scrum Team 4, and we want to add folks there. We can go ahead and start dragging them and dropping them. You'll see Lucidchart's created a color for us, so we can quickly and easily build out that new Scrum team. A couple of other options you have here is if you want to see additional information. Maybe you want to see what location folks are at. If you come to the org chart options on the left and navigate to shapes here, we're able to turn on as many fields as we would like. So perhaps you want to see things like location and email. We can turn on all of those fields, and you'll notice that now we'll see additional information in our Scrum team view here. Something else we're able to do is adjust our layout. So if we click our Optimize Layout button, you'll see that our different layouts are going to change. We can change how many columns and rows we have, so that way it's a little bit easier for us to view these different teams however we prefer to view them. So you do have a lot of different options for what this view looks like to make it as clear as possible for you. All right, and maybe we want to move this Scrum Team 4 to the end so that it makes sense number-wise for us. We can also easily do that by dragging and dropping. Now let's say we built out all of our different Scrum teams. We can see them here, they look great, but perhaps we want to make sure that every team has a senior titled person on it, right? That was kind of what our purpose was here. We can now go ahead and come back to conditional formatting, the same that we did before, and very easily add a rule that will allow us to see what folks have a senior level title. So let's go ahead and come up to this. We'll go to the other rule option here and create a new rule. And this rule we'll call senior title. And in this case, perhaps we want to change our shape formatting, and we want to look at our shape data again. It's going to look off of that spreadsheet. And we want to look at the role and make sure that the role contains a senior level title. Now maybe in this example, instead of changing the fill, maybe we want to add a border color, and maybe we want it to be something like red. We can go ahead and make that adjustment. We can make it thicker if we'd like, so it's really obvious for us to see what folks have a senior title. Now you'll notice that nobody has changed in our Scrum teams. Now the reason being is that we created the rule instead of in the applied selection as an other rule. So to apply that, what we'll want to do is select all of our different Scrum teams. We can either drag and drop or press Command A to select everything. And then we'll come to our other rules here. We'll select this rule and drag it to the top in this applied to selection option. And we can now quickly and easily see what folks have a senior level title. Now, if we want to make sure that everybody has a senior level title person in their team, it looks like we have somebody that is unassigned. We can go ahead and drag and drop them into our team. So now it looks like these 3 teams at least have a senior level title. And maybe at that point we decide we want to deprecate team 4 because there's not an executive VP to be there for them. We can go ahead and delete that Scrum team. And we are all set, ready to go. We can easily visualize their teams. We can see what executive sponsor they have. And rather than just looking at the hierarchical structure that looked like this, we can gain way more insights here with this group view. Now, something that's even cool about this is we can actually export this as a CSV and see what folks are reporting in different groups really easily. So if we want to do something with that data now, we can see all of those adjustments that we've made, what Scrum teams folks are working on, and actually have that data back in our spreadsheet. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop for questions here for a moment, and we will continue on. Alrighty, let's go ahead and continue on talking about how we can visualize data from multiple spreadsheets. Now in this example, I want to share a little story with you. Somewhere that this might be helpful is if you have a spreadsheet that's already built in your org chart, right? But you want to see additional information like we just did based off of a separate spreadsheet. So for example, maybe you have end of year reviews coming up, and so you decide to outsource to a company to be able to see what the market is for salaries, because you want to be sure that you are remaining competitive, you're in a very booming area, and turnover is really high. And so you want to make sure that as your end of year reviews come up, you're adjusting the salaries accordingly in a way that is going to keep all of your employees at the company. And so you've gone through the process of having this other company do all this work for you, and they send you a spreadsheet of what salaries should look like, and you want to now see that salary adjustment here on your org chart so that when you present to the executives, you can show them a visual of what the changes are going to look like across the org. Now, if you had to go and create a separate org chart based off of that spreadsheet, you might not have all of the reporting structure information, and so it could be a major headache. What you can do in Lucidchart is you can actually overlay that data so you can visualize data from multiple spreadsheets on your org chart. So it's very, very cool for being able to see how things lie across the org. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to double click our org chart to select it, and then we're going to come up to this Manage Data button here in the upper left. And when we select that, you will see this option to overlay a new data set. In other words, we're going to link our employees to another data set. Go ahead and select that option, and we are going to import our data here. Now you can import data from a Google Sheet, an Excel file, or a CSV. So wherever that data is living is totally fine. We'll go ahead and choose our file, and we are going to connect to our Google Drive where I have that spreadsheet living. And I'm able to search for that spreadsheet now. So I know I want to look at my org chart salary adjustment spreadsheet. We'll click select, and we're going to import that data here onto our org chart. All right, now Lucidchart wants to know what our header row is so it can identify how to lay this data out, as well as our unique identifiers, which is similar to what we were looking at with that initial spreadsheet. So once you click done, Lucidchart needs to make sure that there is a field in each data set that is going to match so that it can identify what folks on one spreadsheet relate to the others. Now that might be an employee ID, it might be a name, there could be a number of different things that you would use to match it, but we need to make sure that there is some column on your spreadsheet that is matching so that Lucidchart knows where to align those folks. We'll go ahead and click overlay. And now you'll see all of that data is applied here in our data panel on the right. So we can see all of that new data set here over here on the right. Now the cool thing is, you can't actually see that data on our org chart right now, but we know that it's connected. And one way to see that is if we select a different individual and come up to our shapes option, you'll see that all of these new employee fields are going to apply. So we can now see our salary adjustment field is an option for us to work with. And so since we're able to see that, now we might want to apply conditional formatting to see what the salary looks like. So when we are presenting to our executives, there's a very clear picture for them of what folks we need to adjust. So let's go ahead and come over to our conditional formatting here on the right. And it looks like we already have some rules applied. I'm going to go ahead and remove these rules so that way we can start from scratch. I'm going to go ahead and unapply them. We'll click these ellipses and unapply them, select the rule and delete it, select the rule and delete it, and now we're all set with a clean spreadsheet, or a clean org chart. All right, now we're gonna create a new rule, and we wanna see what folks need a salary adjustment. And so perhaps we want to look at our shape data, and maybe we want to go to our salary adjustment field here, and we want to see if it contains a yes, they do need a salary adjustment. And we'll go ahead and turn those folks to red because we know that they have to be changed. We don't have an option here with these folks. We have to change their salary. Now we can go ahead and duplicate that rule by clicking on the ellipses. And now we can say suggested salary adjustment. These might be folks that don't necessarily need one, but it would be definitely worth looking into for kind of keeping more folks at the company. So maybe we turn this to a yellow. So now we've got yellow and red. And last but not least, we'll have folks that don't need a salary adjustment. So we'll say that they are market standard. And we'll go ahead and change this to a no, and those folks are going to be a green. All right, now look how much more powerful this org chart is. You could take a spreadsheet like this to the executives and say, all right, these are all the folks that need salary adjustments. Sure, you absolutely could do that. It definitely does not look even close to as powerful as the visual if you go to your executives in your board meeting and you say, look at all these folks that need a salary adjustment. You can see all the ones in red and green and yellow. And we can even make it more powerful by putting these into that group view. That's super easy for us to make. So let's go ahead and do that so we can see, again, how powerful that will be when we want to share this. So we can go ahead and double click on these folks. We're going to come over to the layout option on the left, create a group view, click next, and we're going to do this just like we did before. We want to look at this group view based off of salary adjustment. We want to preserve those conditional formatting rules. And when we create that group view, it's going to be very powerful for us to show our executives a very succinct view of how many folks need a salary adjustment. And then they're able to decide from this maybe group, maybe some of these folks will still get one, maybe they won't. And we can make those adjustments while we're in the meeting with our executives really, really easily. Alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and take a minute to stop for questions and we will go ahead and continue on. Alrighty, now I want to talk about one of my very favorite features here, and this will give you the ability to use one-click filters to segment your employees. So it's very, very flexible and allowing you to view people exactly how you'd like to on the editor. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll click our folks. And you'll notice this filter option. Now, a place that this comes in handy a lot is I get a lot of customers that ask about how they can maybe print off their org chart based on location or department or whatever it might be. This is going to be the best way to do that. So you'll come to this filter option. Our location contains So our San Francisco office, we can now turn on that field so we can make sure that we have the right people here. So we'll go ahead and turn on location and we'll see that all these folks are in our San Francisco office. We can do a quick glance. And now we could easily print this and have our San Francisco org chart. Similarly, if we jump back and see another office, maybe we want to look at our New York office, Great, we can easily do that. We'll go ahead and close out of our filter here. And we want to filter and look at our location, and maybe we want to look at New York and click filter. And now we can print off our New York office here very, very easily. So that's going to be a great way to kind of print the visual of the org chart you want, rather than having to recreate an org chart for every department or location or whatever it might be. You can just flexibly adjust this and see different folks. Alrighty, now let's look at a different example and talk about a little bit of a story of how this might be helpful for you. So let's say you decide you want to roll out a new software. And so that's going to take a lot of change management, and you need to pull together a project team to help you to make sure that it's a very smooth transition. And maybe you've decided that there's certain criteria for folks you want on your project team. For example, maybe you want to be sure you have an executive sponsor, so somebody with a VP title or above. And maybe you want to make sure you have a project manager on your team and somebody that has change management experience. And so being able to pull all these folks in a very easy way is great in Lucidchart. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create a project team field, a custom field, to add these folks to really easily. So we're going to come over to our org chart options here on the left. We'll select shapes, and we're going to create a new custom field here. So we're going to go ahead and click an add field, and we're going to call this our project team. Go ahead and click enter. And now we've got our project team that's been added to our org chart. Now, what we can do from here is filter these folks by those different criteria we're looking at. So the first criteria you'll remember is we want to make sure we have an executive sponsor. So somebody with a VP title or above. So we can go ahead and come into our role here, and we want to make sure they contain a VP title. And we'll go ahead and select enter. And now you'll see all of these different folks that have VP titles. And so we're able to go ahead and make sure that our project team title is on here. I'm going to call it project. And now we'll go ahead and assign folks to this team. So maybe we have folks that we don't want on our team. Maybe we have folks that we do want on our team. We can go ahead and say whether or not they would be an option for our team. All right, so we've gone through our VPs. The next step for us here is we want to see what folks are project managers that we could add to our team. So we'll go ahead and come back to our filter option, and now we want to filter by a certification for project management. So we'll go ahead and type in the certification code for that and add that filter, and now we can see all these folks that have project management experience. So we're now able to go ahead and assign these folks and say who we can and cannot have on our project team very easily, and go ahead and move on to our last individual we need to have is somebody with change management experience. So we can now go ahead and filter by folks that have change management experience. So we'll go to our certification, we'll type in the certification code for that, add that filter, and now we can see all the folks with change management experience. And you'll see we've already assigned some of these yeses and nos, so we can go ahead to those folks that are left and decide who we might want on our team. Now, once we've done all this, we can then use that group view functionality to really easily see who is available for us to pull together on this project team. So we're going to come up to our layout option, because you'll remember we want to look at a new layout here. We're going to create a group view based off of our project teams. So let's go ahead and preserve our conditional formatting rules so that we're able to see what department folks are working on, so we can have a very diverse project team. Then we are going to choose our field and make sure that we want to look at our project team and create a group view from that. Alrighty, now you can see all the folks we have signed. We've got some that are yeses and nos, and we're able to go ahead and assign new folks if we'd like, and decide who might be consisting in our project team now in the future. And of course, because Lucidchart is super flexible, we can add more fields here. So if we needed to call these folks and ask them, or maybe we want to look at location and we see that, oh, it looks like Camilla is the only one in Germany, so maybe she's not a good fit. We want to make sure that we're accommodating hours that everybody can work. We can easily make those adjustments here in Lucidchart. Alrighty, now we've gone through quite a bit so far. We've talked about how we can automate our org chart. We've talked about how we can apply conditional formatting to gain additional insights, how we can use group view to quickly and easily bucket folks based on different criteria, how we can use filters to help pull together things like project teams or print out specific views of our org chart. Last but not least, I just want to show you one of our new features, which is visible tiers, where you're able to actually see a certain level of folks on your org chart without it becoming too overwhelming. So to do that, I'll go ahead and jump back into my org chart. And if I go ahead and select my org chart, you will see under our layout option here on the left, a visible tier column, where we can go ahead and either say we want to see just the second tier or the first tier, and you'll notice that Lucidchart condenses our org chart. And we can still see numbers for how many folks are reporting to each individual in our org chart. And we can go ahead and click their drop downs and expand or collapse different groups of folks as we see fit for the view that we need. And then of course we can print our org chart looking like that. So if we need our org chart to look specific for maybe a meeting you're going to, this is a great way to go about doing that in a very easy and flexible way. All right. That said, that is primarily all the content that I had prepared for you guys today. I want to be sure to leave you with additional resources so that way you know where to go from here. So if you have further questions, if you want to learn more, please check out our upcoming and on-demand webinars. We have live webinars every month. And a number of recorded webinars, so please feel free to check those out. We also have our Lucidchart Training Hub, so it's bit.ly/Lucidchart Training Hub. It is case sensitive, but that will provide you with self-serve resources no matter what it is you're trying to accomplish. And last but not least, definitely check out our YouTube playlist if you like more smaller content, shorter videos, feature-based. YouTube's a great place to visit. That said, thank you so much for coming, and we hope to see you next time.